All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about the absolute heart of DBT. We're going to break down the core building blocks that really change the game when it comes to writing SQL. We're talking about models and, the one little function that ties the whole thing together, ref.
Okay, just look at this slide, because it shows you the exact problem DBT was built to solve. On the left, you've got the old way. And, well, it's kind of a mess, right? You're writing these full create view statements, hard-coding everything, and you have to manually figure out which script needs to run before the other. It's just asking for trouble. But then, look at the right. That's the DBT way. All you write is the select statement. You focus only on the logic, and DBT literally handles the rest.
So what even is a DBT model? Look, it's not some crazy complex thing. It is, quite simply, a select statement that you save in a .sql file. You name the file clean_orders.sql, and boom, DBT knows you want to create something in your database called clean orders. It's really that simple.
So let's just walk through what's happening behind the curtain here. Step 1, your job. All you have to do is write your select statement. Step 2, DBT's job. It takes your code and wraps it in all that necessary boilerplate, the create or replace stuff. Step 3, and this is where the magic happens. DBT executes it against your database, and it knows the right order to do it in. And what's the result? Step 4, a brand new perfectly built view or table in Snowflake.
Okay, so this brings up a super important question, right? If we're just writing these little select statements in their own files, and we're not supposed to be hard-coding names like myschema.mytable, then how on earth do we connect them? How does one model read data from another?
Well, the answer is this one simple but honestly incredibly powerful function. The ref function is the magic glue. It's the secret sauce that holds your entire DBT project together and makes it all just work.
And that brings us to golden rule number 1 of DBT. If you remember anything from this, remember this. You never, and I mean never, write the full 3-part name of a table or view in your from clause. Just don't do it. It breaks the whole system.
Instead, what you're always going to do is this. You use the ref function. See that syntax? It's always those double curly braces, the word ref, and then the name of the file, the model you want to select from, right there in quotes. This is the way.
So why do we care so much about this? Why is it such a big deal? Well, 2 huge reasons. First, your code works everywhere. The ref function automatically figures out if you're in your dev environment or your prod environment. You don't have to change a single line of code. Second, DBT uses these ref calls to automatically build a map of your project, a dependency graph, or DAG. That's how it knows the correct order to run everything.
All right, enough talk. Let's actually build something. We're going to get our hands dirty and put together a really simple 2-model pipeline. This is where it's all going to click for you, I promise.
So first up, we've got our base model, raworders.sql. Just think of this as our raw data source. For now, we're just faking it with a simple select and a union all to create a couple of order records. This is our starting point. Okay, part 2. We're going to create our second model, cleanorders.sql. And its whole job is to read from our raw orders model and do something to it. In this case, a really simple transformation. We're going to calculate an 18% tax. And this right here, this is the key. This is the most important line in our cleanorders.sql file. Instead of writing out some long, hard-coded path, we just say from ref raw orders. That one little function tells DBT everything it needs to know. It tells DBT that this model depends on that model.
So that begs the question, right? How does DBT know? How does it figure out that it absolutely has to build raw_orders before it even tries to build clean_orders?
The answer, and this is the core genius of DBT, is the dependency graph. Before DBT runs anything, it scans all your files. It sees that ref raw orders sitting inside of clean orders, and it instantly understands, aha, clean orders needs raw orders to exist first. And so it automatically builds the right plan to make that happen. Every single time. And now for my favorite part. To build this entire pipeline with all its dependencies, we just go to our terminal and type one thing, dbt run. That's it. One command to rule them all. So let's break down what the terminal is telling us here. Look at the order. It says one of two start raw orders. It builds that one first. Then, and only after that one is okay, does it move on to 2 of 2 start clean orders. You're literally watching the DAG in action. Okay, our run finished. No errors. So what's next? Well, let's pop over to our data warehouse, in this case, Snowflake, and see what we actually made. And boom, there it is. We can see our new clean orders view. And when we query it, we see our original data plus that new amount with GST column with the tax correctly calculated. Our pipeline totally worked from start to finish. Perfect. All right, so you've got the basics down. You know how to build models and connect them. Let's level up a little bit and talk about materializations. This is how you tell dbt what kind of object to build, like a view or a table. So you've got a choice to make for every model, and it's a pretty important one: view or table. By default, dbt makes views. They're super fast to create, and they don't take up any storage space. The downside? They can be a bit slower to query. Tables are the opposite. They take a little longer to build, and they do use storage. But querying them is lightning fast because the data is already computed and sitting there.
And the best part? Changing this is super easy. All you do is add this little config block at the very top of your .sql file. You're just telling dbt, hey, for this model, don't use the default. I want you to build me a table instead.
Okay, quick pro tip for you, especially as your projects get bigger. There's this awesome VS Code extension called dbt Power User. It lets you actually see your dependency graph, just like this. You can see exactly how your models connect. It's an absolute lifesaver for figuring things out when your pipelines get more complex. Trust me.
Okay, your turn. I've got a little assignment for you to really make this stick. First, I want you to go into that raw orders.sql file and add the config block to change it to a table. Step 2, just run dbt run again. And step 3, go into Snowflake and actually check that the little icon next to raw orders changed from a view to a table.
So let's wrap up with this thought. You now have the fundamental tools. You know how to put logic into a model, and you know how to connect them using ref. So the real question for you is, what's that first messy piece of business logic at your job that you're going to go and transform into a clean, simple, and reliable dbt model?